Alright, good day, hi and welcome. Alright, so I got an old friend here, and I just gave him a good sharpening up. Look at this, a bird on my car. Look at the mess they made on my poor car. How inconsiderate. Anyway, yeah, so there we go. So what I did, so got my file out. And these are, this file jig thing's a good guide. It basically you stay at 25 degrees here with your tooth, and I mean they're not bad. I got a raker gauge. These are pretty straightforward. You basically go on that, and if you see the raker come up higher than the tooth, obviously you want to take it down. You don't have to do them every time, but you do have to do them, because if you don't, eventually what will happen is the tooth will go below the raker and it just simply won't cut, right? Just, you know, you've got an object in the way, and you'll burn out your saw if you don't take care of it properly. If you can find one of these little doodad, I have no idea. I got this on a metal pick, and this is like the most handy little file holder. Is it ever good? I like that. This is not bad. This handle thing doesn't stay on very well, but good file holder. You got different angles. You got 30 degrees. You got 25 degrees. I typically, on this little guy, I do 25 degrees. You got 35 degrees. You got yeah, so you got all different angles. The 25 degree is pretty much the same angle as the scribe line, so it pretty much, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. So yeah, so this thing is cutting better. If I give it a top up now from this point on, it doesn't take me long to sharpen up a chain, because I do it so often. I don't wait till it gets really, really dull. So I do a job, and at the end of the job, I usually do 3 swipes per tooth, and then whatever the rakers require once in a while. But today I did 10 swipes per tooth per side, and I did that because this chain is really, really, really dull. Or, you know, well, it's not as dull as it was. I've done about 10 sharpenings, but this is the first time I've actually had time to spend on it. So I know next time I cut with it, it's not going to be too bad. And again, this is probably the original bar and chain for this saw. God knows how old this saw actually is. Late 90s, probably. Could be even, well, sometime in the 90s or either early 2000s. So anyway, yeah, so I got this one ready to go. I'm not going to bother sharpening Mini Beast, because I top him up once a day. You know, until, like, if I get into a lot of heavy cutting, like, but every hour or so, I just give a quick going over the teeth. I never let it get dull. How do I know when the saw is dull? How do you know? Well, the chips will tell you. When you got fine sawdust, you've got a dull chain, and a dull saw is a dangerous saw. I mean, saws are dangerous no matter what. But when you got an adequate amount of chips coming out, and it's nice big chips coming out, then you're good for a little while, you know. So the thing about this chain is it does tend to dull quickly, because, you know, such a beat up chain. But that's what I got it for. This is what I call my Murphy chain. So anyway, there we go. So he'll go back ready for ready for duty. So this saw I did get for free. It runs pretty much perfectly. No problems with the saw so far. But there's not a lot of time on this saw, so it is a really good saw. I should clean it up a little bit more, whatever, but it is what it is. It's a work tool. It's not the best saw in the world. Obviously, I prefer my Stills, but it definitely owes me nothing. I mean, I've used it enough. Like, I always have to have at least 2 saws with me. One as a backup, and one as a main. Most of the time I just use that guy, but I try to use him at least, like, if I use him for most of the day, like I did 5.5 hours yesterday, most of it was him until the trigger let go on it, and I had to fix it today. I used him for maybe about an hour or so yesterday, but I usually do at least 1 tank cutting session on all my saws. I'll have a main saw that I use, but then I'll always, just so it doesn't gum up. And this one, you know, when I first got it, it was, you know, like I've been using this saw actually for years. This saw was given to me by one of my clients. It's her widow, and he was a really, really nice man. That's why I called this saw old friend, you know. And this is kind of like the rescue saw. Whenever, you know, when people get their saws caught in the tree. It's never happened to me, ever. But if it ever did, this would be the rescue saw. So getting this saw back into good cutting shape is going to be really good. The brake works great on it. I looked at the filter the other day. It's not too bad. The filter is actually quite clean on this thing. Again, it's more dirty from sitting than there's no, like, I don't know. The handle's actually quite nice on it. It's a rubberized handle. There's no real battle scars on this thing. It's easy to start. It doesn't have a decompressor, but it's only 39 cc, so it goes pretty good. You know, yeah, you can get better saws for sure, but you won't get better for cheaper because this was free. So, but it's, again, it kind of was de facto my saw for the last past probably 8 years, where I'm like the only guy that uses it, right? So, like I said, his widow, she's a little old lady. She's never going to use this all like that. She said, "Yeah, want it out of the garage. Take it away. You know, you might as well get some use out of it." I was thinking about selling it, but there's a part of me that doesn't want to. But you know, I do need to upgrade my equipment, right? So, but then I'm also one of those guys that you can never have too many chainsaws. If you really get into chainsawing, I can guarantee you, no matter what you're doing, you're gonna break stuff, and that's the way Murphy rolls. He showed up yesterday just enough to throw me off the beaten path, and again, old friend came to the rescue when he threw the trigger. Poor Mitty Beast threw the trigger yesterday, but he's better now because I fixed him. Good boy, and he's gonna have to do some real serious high wire tree chomping on Monday. So it's kind of one of those things that I am going to get other little saws. He's probably going to become a second line or a third line saw. Personally, if this thing was brand new, it is technically a 170, not a 180. But if this thing was brand new, this saw would be absolutely awesome. It is awesome the way it is. You would laugh the size of the trees I knocked down with this thing. Why work with a heavier saw than you have to, right? You know, you got guys cutting branches like that with 72 cc saws. Oh, I need to cut power and speed. Don't lift anything heavier than you have to. You can work all day with that, and your back's not sore at the end of the day. The only thing is with the shorter bars, you do tend to have to bend a little bit more. Whatever. Now, one thing I wish I could do, I don't know if it's possible. I'd love to have a 36-inch or a 42-inch bar with a skip chain on it, really light though, for just limbing, so you could just stand there and just raise the saw, you know, the bar up and down. That would be really cool to have a saw dedicated just for limbing, when you're not going back and forth changing bars all the time. Like I say, you can never have too many saws, right? But yeah, this saw's starting to cut good. That's probably about the 11th sharpening I've, because I only got it last year. And over the years, like, I've tried to sharpen it, but I've never really had the time to spend on it because it wasn't my saw and whatever. I think I brought it home once in the past 8 years, you know, and I barely had time to deal with it, right? But now that it's mine and it's here, and like I say, I did a little job today, and just to round out the day, I figured, well, get these things ready to go for Monday. Never know, another little job could pop up between now and Monday. Today's Tuesday. But yeah, pretty much every Monday I use these regardless, all my saws regardless. But yes, I do think there's going to be a third little saw, and then hopefully by midsummer, right now we're in April, I'm hoping by midsummer I will be getting a nice big huge honking well, mid-size saw. And then maybe if I'm really lucky and if I'm really busy this season and the money allows, I'm going to get a big Megalobarclodon for stuff like that, like a 661 or whatever. Just something like ridiculous big. You only use it once in a while when you get stuff like that. Very rarely I cut stuff that big. Like stove wood, you don't cut stuff that big for stove wood. That's way more work than you need to. I know there's guys that do it. They cut it down. They think they're getting more blockage out of it, but it's just more work. You know, like why cut anything bigger than the stove? You know, like, you know, than what you're going to burn, right? But this is a okay stove wood saw for average size trees, you know, like for that. It will do it. It won't be the fastest thing, but you know, it'll do it. For brush, like the clearing and stuff like that, it's a little bit big for that stuff. I prefer those little saws for like the brushing stuff, just because they're lighter when you're closer to the ground, but it will do it. So this is kind of a good all-around saw. Not